Behind a silkscreen in the Forbidden City, a woman sits perfectly still. She can hear the voices of ministers and generals on the other side, men who think they hold the future of China in their hands. They don't know she's listening to every word. One wrong move, and she could lose everything: her son, her position, her life. But she's been counting on their arrogance, and tonight she'll make her move. How did a young concubine rise to become the most powerful woman in Chinese history? And why has the West painted her as a villain when her own people saw something far more complex? This is the story of Empress Dowager Cixi, and this is the Untold Spirit. China, the mid-1800s. The Qing Dynasty is crumbling from within. Foreign powers are carving up the country like a feast. Britain has just won the Opium Wars, forcing China to open its ports and flood its cities with drugs. France, Germany, Japan, they're all circling, waiting for their peace. Inside the Forbidden City, the Emperor Feng watches his empire collapse. He's weak, both in health and will. He knows he's dying, and he knows what will happen when he does. His court is a nest of vipers, princes plotting against each other, ministers lining their pockets while peasants starve. The old system is failing, and no one seems willing to save it. Enter Cixi. She's not a princess, not nobility. She's a concubine, one of many women brought into the palace to serve the emperor. She's 16 when she arrives, smart, observant, beautiful, yes, but not the most beautiful. What sets her apart is something the court doesn't expect from a concubine: ambition. She learns quickly. She watches how power moves through the palace like water. Who holds it, who pretends to hold it, and who pulls the strings from the shadows. In 1856, she does something remarkable. She gives birth to a son, the emperor's only male heir. Suddenly, this young concubine from a modest Manchu family has become the mother of the future emperor. Suddenly, she matters. But mattering in the Forbidden City is dangerous, very dangerous. When Emperor Feng dies in 1861, Cixi's son is only 5 years old, too young to rule. The late emperor saw this coming. Before he died, he appointed 8 powerful regents, high-ranking princes and ministers to govern until the boy comes of age. Cixi is supposed to step aside, raise her son quietly, stay behind the scenes. That's what women do. But she sees what the regents are planning. They're not interested in protecting her son. They want to use him as a puppet. And once he's no longer useful, they'll get rid of him and her. She has a choice: accept her fate, fade into obscurity and hope they show mercy, or fight. She chooses to fight. But she can't do it alone. She's a woman in a world run entirely by men. She has no army, no official title, no legal authority. What she does have is intelligence and an unexpected ally. Empress Dowager Cixi, the late emperor's official widow, holds a higher rank than Cixi. Technically, she's the one with authority. But Cixi has no interest in politics. She's content to let others lead. Cixi approaches her carefully. She proposes something unthinkable: a coup. Together, with the help of Prince Gong, the emperor's brother, and one of the few men who sees the regents for what they are, they plan their move. It happens fast. The regents are arrested on charges of treason. Some are executed, others are exiled. Within weeks, the 8 most powerful men in China are gone, and Cixi is standing behind the throne. Officially, Xi and Xian rule as co-regents. In reality, Cixi is in control. She issues edicts from behind a yellow silk screen, a symbol of imperial authority. The young emperor sits on the throne, but his mother speaks the words. It's called ruling behind the curtain, and she'll do it for nearly 50 years. But power comes with enemies, constant, relentless enemies. The conservatives despise her. They see her as a woman overstepping her place, violating Confucian order. They whisper that she's destroyed tradition, that she's cursed the dynasty. The reformers don't trust her either. They want modernization, railroads, factories, a constitutional government. They see her as an obstacle, clinging to the old ways. Foreign powers underestimate her. They call her the Dragon Lady, a scheming, ruthless figure. Western newspapers paint her as a villain, responsible for every failure of the Qing court. But here's the truth. Cixi is trying to save a country that's falling apart. She initiates the self-strengthening movement, an attempt to modernize Chinese military and infrastructure while preserving its culture. She supports the construction of railroads and telegraph lines. She backs the creation of a modern navy. But she's walking a tightrope. Push too hard for reform, and the conservative elites will turn on her. Move too slowly, and foreign invaders will tear the country apart. Every decision is a gamble. Every ally could become an enemy. And she never forgets. The moment she shows weakness, they'll remove her, or worse. The crisis comes in 1898. It's known as the 100 Days Reform. Cixi's nephew, the Guangxu Emperor, is now an adult. Technically, he's in charge, but he's frustrated, boxed in by his aunt's control. A group of young reformers convinces him to act. They draft radical changes, abolish the old exam system, modernize the military, create a constitutional monarchy, all in 100 days. It's too much, too fast. The conservative elite panic, and they come to Cixi. She faces an impossible choice: support her nephew and risk a civil war that could destroy the dynasty, or stop him and be seen as a tyrant crushing progress. She chooses to stop him. Guangxu is placed under house arrest in the Forbidden City. He'll live there, essentially a prisoner, for the rest of his life. The reformers are executed or exiled. The 100 Days Reform is over. Cixi is painted as the villain. The West sees her as the cruel empress who destroyed China's chance at modernization. Even some Chinese intellectuals blame her for holding the country back. But she sees it differently. She believes the reforms would have torn the country apart, that China wasn't ready, that survival required caution, not recklessness. 2 years later, in 2000, disaster strikes again, the Boxer Rebellion. A nationalist movement rises up, furious at foreign interference. They attack Western embassies, missionaries, Chinese Christians. The violence is brutal and chaotic. Cixi makes a fateful decision. She supports the Boxers. It's a miscalculation, a catastrophic one. 8 foreign armies invade Beijing. They crush the rebellion, loot the Forbidden City, and force Cixi to flee in disguise. For the first time in her life, she's powerless. She's on the run, dressed as a peasant, watching her empire burn. Eventually, she returns. She negotiates a humiliating peace treaty. China pays enormous reparations. Foreign troops occupy Beijing. But she's still standing. Against all odds, she holds on to power. In her final years, she changes course. She begins implementing the very reforms she once blocked. New schools, a modernized army, plans for a constitutional government. It's too late. The damage is done.
The Qing Dynasty is dying. Cixi dies in 1908, one day after the Guangxu emperor. Some historians believe she had him poisoned, unwilling to let him outlive her and undo her legacy. She's 72 years old. She's ruled China for nearly half a century. And the world still doesn't know what to make of her. Here's what history got wrong about Cixi. For decades, she was remembered as a monster, a power-hungry woman who destroyed China's chance at modernization, a villain who poisoned her enemies and lived in luxury while her people starved.
Much of that narrative came from Western sources that saw her through the lens of imperialism and misogyny. She was a woman in power, therefore she must be wicked. Chinese intellectuals blamed her too. When the Qing Dynasty finally fell in 1911, she became a convenient scapegoat for everything that went wrong. But modern historians paint a more complex picture. Cixi wasn't a saint. She was ruthless when she needed to be. She made mistakes, terrible ones, like supporting the boxers. She prioritized survival over idealism. But she also kept the Qing Dynasty alive for 50 years when it should have collapsed. She navigated a world of impossible choices. She fought against foreign invasion, internal rebellion, and a court full of men who wanted her gone. She was intelligent, strategic, and deeply pragmatic. She cared about China, even if her methods were controversial. And here's the untold part. She was never supposed to matter at all. A concubine, a woman, someone the system was designed to keep silent and invisible. And yet, she became the most powerful figure in one of the largest empires on Earth. Her story reminds us that history is rarely as simple as heroes and villains, that people in impossible situations make impossible choices, and that the voices we don't hear, especially women's voices, often shaped history far more than we realize. Cixi's legacy is complicated, but it's also undeniable. She ruled from behind a screen, but her influence reached across an empire.